Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Thomas.
And I'm Madison Wade. Sacramento experiencing its deadliest mass shooting in city history. That is according to Congresswoman Doris Matsui, who spoke inside the U.S. Capitol tonight.
Also tonight, nearly 48 hours after the shooting, look at this. Many gathered in downtown Sacramento for a vigil, calling for change and demanding action to stop the violence. The group also speaking about the 6 victims tonight. They range in age from 21 years old to 57 years old. We plan to share their stories throughout the show this evening.
And we start tonight with ABC 10's Van 2 live from downtown following that vigil. Van, a very emotional night.
Definitely very emotional, and you can see behind me there are still candles lit here at the corner of K and 10th Street, the final resting place for 6 victims. And at tonight's earlier vigil, it was really a time to gather and heal and also to speak one's truth. A family member of one of those 6 victims seizing the moment to speak from his heart, urging the community and city leaders to listen.
And that, Father, we as a city, the city of Sacramento, will live as our name denotes, the city of Sacramento.
Wrapped in prayer again, a candlelight vigil as community members come together to process the trauma. In the audience, Jackie Hernandez couldn't stay silent in a cycle of rinse, wash, and repeat.
Speak your truth. This is a truth session.
Stepping up to the microphone.
The truth is this. My cousin Sergio Harris, my first cousin Sergio Harris, was gunned down. The last time we had a mass shooting, we did the same thing. Sat out here, held up our candles.
Among 6 lives cut short, his first cousin, Sergio Harris.
He was a father, he was a husband, he was a great man.
Say that.
And he had his life taken from him, shot in the back.
Say that. Twice.
Unacceptable.
Twice.
He called out the mayor's call for mental health services, saying it's only a small part of the problem, calling for guns to be taken off the streets, youth empowerment, and strict penalties for crime.
They have to be held accountable for their actions the same way every last one of us have to be held accountable for our actions.
The mayor vowing to increase funding for youth programs.
And yes, there were adults that were killed, but we all know it's about moving upstream, because every child, every teenager, every young adult should have nothing but good and great choices.
The vigil organizer Barry Axius, co-founder of Voice of the Youth, says this was a session to be heard.
We've been struck by senseless acts of violence, and we are not going to normalize that senseless act of violence.
To envision a strong, safe city for all Sacramentans. And for Henderson, he says it isn't solely up to public officials.
The change has to be made. And if you want to know who's going to make the change, when you go home, look in the damn mirror.
Now, after the speaking portion of that vigil, Henderson and the mayor shared and embraced. The full vigil can be rewatched on ABC 10 social media. Meanwhile, I did speak to family members of victims who were in the audience, and they say that they really felt that Henderson spoke to how they were feeling. They say never again really is not a catchphrase, but a commitment to action.
Very raw emotions tonight from that vigil. Again, it is live on our website, abc10.com. Van, thanks.
Keep in mind, the investigation is really just getting started. This is new video tonight taken from the Citizen Hotel moments after shots were fired on K Street. Police were patrolling the area 2 blocks from the Capitol at about 2 a.m. Sunday when they heard gunfire and rushed to the scene. More than 100 expended shell casings and a stolen handgun have been recovered so far.
And the Sacramento Police Department still asking people to scan this QR code on your screen to send them any information or video that can help in this case. So far, they say 100 video and photo files have been submitted. Investigators believe at least 2 different caliber of ammunitions were used in the shooting and multiple guns were involved. Today, police confiscated at least 1 other gun while searching 3 homes.
We are learning more about the first arrest made in connection to the case. 26-year-old DeAndre Martin was taken into custody, and he's now facing assault and illegal gun charges. He'll be in court tomorrow. Tonight, I spoke to the police chief, Kathy Lester, about the search now underway for other suspects.
I think as a police department, we need to do everything we can to bring the suspects that are involved in this type of crime to justice for those families, right? To give them some resolution.
You can hear more of my conversation with the chief and her plan to tackle gun violence coming up at 11:18.
This was the scene tonight inside our nation's capital. Sacramento Congresswoman Doris Matsui organizing a moment of silence for the victims on the U.S. House floor. She read all 6 names out loud.
Sergio Harris, 38 years old. Melinda Davis, 57 years old. Yamile Martinez Andrade, 21 years old. Jantaya Alexander, 21 years old. Devazia Turner, 29 years old. And Joshua Hoy Lucchesi, 32 years old.
The Congresswoman went on to address her colleagues, saying that if we can prevent another tragedy like this and spare other families and communities pain, we have to come together and act.
And new tonight, want to show you a priceless photograph. This is Melinda Davis, one of the victims. She was an unhoused woman who slept on the sidewalk near the scene of the shooting. Photographers Eddie Navarro Sr. and Eddie Navarro Jr. took her picture for her recently, but they tell ABC 10 tonight they did not get this photo developed and given to her in time.
I take my walk every day on my lunch, and she's usually there on the corner, right there on 10th and J. She's never been rowdy. She's always been kind. She's just, just a face that you're going to miss if you're a part of Midtown and you walk through there every day, you're just going to kind of miss her.
Council member Katie Valenzuela is also sharing this photo of Melinda on her Facebook page. The council member says Melinda had connections to the women's shelter at Loaves and Fishes in downtown. And Madison, each of these victims' stories are just so incredibly hard to tell.
Yeah, and one of the youngest victims of this senseless tragedy was just 21 years old. In fact, she was celebrating her big birthday. ABC 10's Alex Bell is joining us in the newsroom with this young woman's story.
This is Yami Lee, and she was from Selma in Fresno County and is one of the youngest victims in the senseless shooting in downtown Sacramento. Now, she was in Sacramento for a concert for her 21st birthday. Her family calls her Yami and tells me that they lost contact with her over the weekend, and they are still looking for answers. A mother crying out for her daughter tonight. Yami Lee Martinez Andrade just turned 21 years old and is one of the 6 victims who died over the weekend in this senseless shooting in downtown Sacramento.
We lost communication, last Sunday, and so we kind of had a feeling something was wrong, but we didn't know what. And her friend told us, and when she called us yesterday, that's when I started calling around to the hospitals and places like that, the PD, but I couldn't get no answers from anybody. Till late last night, the coroner finally called me and told me that, yeah, it was her, but, they said that they had identified her.
Her stepfather, Frank Gonzalez, says that she was a caring person who loved going to concerts and trying new places to eat and would often plan weekend trips like this one to Sacramento.
She was a real loving person. She'd do anything for anybody.
He says the hardest part is they still don't have answers from police.
Well, we don't really know nothing because the PD, the Sacramento Police Department never contacted us, nothing from the detectives or anything like that, so we don't really know what happened other than what we heard on the news and, the shooting and stuff like that. So, we're still kind of waiting for answers, or clarability to see what really happened, what took place, and we don't know.
Gonzalez says it's been a horrible experience waiting for answers, and his plea to law enforcement.
I know the PD does their work and stuff, but it would be nice for them to be more responsible and, more communicative to families and victims out there, and just to keep people informed, man.
You feel their pain listening to that interview. And Chris, I spoke with her best friend at length yesterday over Messenger. She told me she was with her and saw her die right in front of her eyes.
You know, so many people have just been changed forever after this tragedy. And so that's why we should tell you that victim services for this mass shooting have actually been moved from City Hall to Cal Expo. They are helping families with counseling and other services such as the California Victims Compensation Fund. We do have more information on abc10.com.
And for help with emotional distress and or suicidal thoughts, call the Disaster Distress Helpline at 1-800-985-5990, or you can always text Talk With Us to 66746.